What's up, boys? Welcome to the party. Welcome to the very best part of your week. Definitely of your day. Probably your week. Maybe even the very best part of your entire life. It's called Live with Jack. Hi, I'm Jack. And this is where you're going to learn everything that you need to know about relationships, about dating, about women, about love and life in general with me, Jack. Today's topic is a big one. We're going to go through a whole lot of stuff, so let's jump right into it. But before that, if you want to really enjoy today's lesson, if you want to take this live stream to its absolute maximum potential, if you want to reach the height of humanity, the culmination of all of civilization, what you need is you need to find yourself some sort of beverage vessel. And join me. I have a glass of tea or a mug of tea today. Join me as we clink our glasses together in a cheers with chaps. I do love that. It's fantastic. All right, now, let's go ahead and get started because today I have a whole lot of stuff to cover, and we actually have a panel waiting behind the scenes as well for the Q&A at the end. So I don't want to keep them waiting too long. This is already going to go on for a while. Let's jump into it. So today we're dealing with one of the hardest topics. Today we're talking about how to get over a breakup. And getting over a breakup is hard. I know. I've been there too many times in too many situations. Sometimes I was the one doing the breaking. Most of the time, not. Because, well, there are some reasons that I don't know if we have time to get into the personalities that go along with that. But neither here nor there. What do you do when you find yourself in that situation? If you have come to this video because you found it on YouTube, then you're looking for the direct answers. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to you in a lovely 4-step process. The very first thing that you need to do whenever you find yourself in that situation, in a breakup, is you need to accept reality. Your truth of the world has changed. Everything that you had in your head, everything that you perceived before, it's all changed. Everything has changed. Not just your relationship status, not just what your Facebook says, not just that. Not just the pain that you're going through, not just the girl who's left, who's disappeared, who's dumped you, who's dating someone else, who's anything at all. It doesn't matter. That's not the thing that's changed. Everything has changed. Because in your mind, you had seen this through. You had some sort of reality concocted where you were going to continue being with this person, where you were going to do things together. And that is no longer the case. Your reality has totally changed. Every part of it. So the very first thing you need to do is accept that nothing is as it was before. Nothing at all. Once you accept that everything has changed entirely, you're able to start rebuilding your perceptions, rebuilding the reality that you see in front of you. And this is for everything. This is not just for your relationship. This is for your ties with your friends, with your family. This is for how you view work, even your concept of home. What kind of place is home? Is this my home? Is this where I'm going to build things? Is this where I'm going to create a new life? Everything is raised to zero. Raised with a Z, right? It's destroyed. Everything is destroyed. It's all back down to zero. This is important to accept because now you're going to start building a new version of reality. This is not an easy process. It sounds easy when I say, oh, just accept. Everything has changed. It's not. It's a painful process, and it's going to take some time. But by doing this, by not simply focusing in on the relationship, by allowing that everything has changed, you are now able to start rebuilding how you view the world around you and your life. You guys may have heard me talk about this before, but reality is subjective. And you actually get to choose your path. You get to choose your own adventure, as it is. That you can choose how you view different situations. And the kid, see if you can find that video from like a month ago or something and link it in the comments below. You can choose your own reality. You can choose how you view things. And so, because you've accepted that everything has changed, that the reality has changed, that your truth has changed, you now have the opportunity to rebuild and reconstruct every part of your life and how you view it. Don't just focus on the relationship. Don't just focus on the girl. Look at everything as brand new, as if you're waking up today like a baby, but somehow you have the memories and experiences and the body that you currently possess. Everything has changed. Accept that first. Number 2, this is part of rebuilding it. You're going to break your mental shackles. The biggest part of getting over a breakup is getting past the one-itis that you're almost definitely going to have. As humans, we have a tendency to view things that we cannot have with a special in a special light. We tend to look back on relationships with rose-colored glasses, saying, "Oh well, it wasn't that bad. Oh, it wasn't, actually, you know what? It was pretty good. Yeah, she yelled and she nagged a bit, but like, who doesn't, right?" And you end up starting to make excuses. You're creating mental shackles for yourself, reasons to tie you to this girl to try and pursue a relationship that is already dead. I'm going to tell you something very true that you're not going to want to accept, but from my experience and the experiences of everybody I've ever seen, if you break up, there is no getting back. There's no going back. Even in the event that you do get back together, it's a bad idea. 99.99999% of the time, it's a bad idea, because now you are in your best case scenario here. You're in a relationship where the trust has already been broken. And people talk about like breaking trust and building trust and rebuilding trust, things like that. Man, trust is like a window. Like you can't rebuild it. You can't put it back. Once it's broken, it's gone. It's gone forever. There is no coming back from that. I have tried getting back together with girls after we broke up, and it never got better. It never fixed any of the underlying problems. It just added to them, because now we have all the same problems that we did before, all the reasons that we broke up before. But now we add on to that the fact that trust has been broken, that you will always know somewhere in the back of your mind that she's thinking about leaving, that she's thinking about ending the relationship, that she's thinking about doing whatever it was that caused the breakup in the first place. Whatever the situation is, that will always exist. So you're compounding problems that already existed with more of them. Don't do that. Instead, you want to break your mental shackles, and you need to destroy your one-itis. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Jack, that's nice and all, but you can't just say destroy one-itis and break something so profoundly powerful with just 2 words. You're right. It's almost like it's a lesson within a lesson. Ha ha! So, let's talk about how to cure one-itis. First, you need to actually think through your fantasy. This is the part where most people stop. They have in their mind this idea, this fantasy of who this girl is, of what she does, of how she acts, of things like this. I want you to, at least for the moment, indulge that. Indulge the fantasy. But really, think through it. Follow it all the way. And don't skip details either. Because in your mind, you're just seeing this weird hazy picture. You're like, yeah, there's me and the girl and the white picket fence and the dog and the 2.5 children. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Then think about like how are you two getting along? Uh, is she still working? Did you get rich enough to support her? If she's still working, who's taking care of the kids all day? Are you taking care of the kids all day? Are you hiring a nanny to do it? Do you guys have enough money that you're not arguing and fighting over that? Even if you do have enough money, you're still going to argue and fight over it, except that you're going to be fighting. What does she look like when she fights? How does she act? Is she the kind of person who would get angry and throw a dish at your head or something? Maybe. Have you ever seen her angry? Like really angry? Oh, maybe not. Oh, okay. All right. Play through your fantasy. Look at all of the details. Because remember, this is your fantasy. This is the nothing is possibly wrong best case scenario. And it's still, when you look at it realistically, not actually all that perfect, not actually all that great. Turns out she's a human. Because number two, you need to realize that she's not real. She's not. Now, there is a real person for whom you have created this fantasy, but that person in your fantasy, that person does not exist. The person you've created in your mind is your projection of what you would like life to be, your projection, your creation of heaven, basically. You have, instead of using religion as a dump for your fantasies and for your dreams and wishes, you have dumped what humans have traditionally put on God onto some poor girl. You've created a standard in your mind that literally nobody can ever live up to. You've created something in your head that does not exist because the girl you've created in your mind does not exist. The girl, the real person, does, but you are doing a horrible, horrible disservice to her if you're trying to force her into this fantastical pigeonhole that you've created for her, where she needs to be perfect all the time, lest she not live up to your expectations. That is a horrible thing that you've done to her, and it's a horrible thing that you've done to yourself, because you've now created this alternate reality that you are trying to treat as a baseline for happiness. Man, that's heaven. Live your life sin free, go to heaven, and then you'll have your thing, right? And your 72 virgins or whatever it is that you believe. That's not what I'm here to talk about. The fact is that you're creating this thing and you're trying to impose that onto this poor girl. She is not real. This version of her in your head is not real. You need to understand that she is not real. Your fantasy is just that. It is not real. Number three, you need to shatter the fantasy with facts. You need to actually consider what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I want? And really look at it. And really look at, okay, so I'm looking for a girl who does these things, who is these things, who has these characteristics. Now, time for the hard part. Your job is to prove that she doesn't meet these qualifications, because she doesn't, because she's not real, because you've created a fantasy. So use the facts at your disposal. Use reality as it sits in front of you. If you have this fantasy in your mind of this hot dime piece that you work with, dumping her hot boyfriend and coming to cuddle up next to you, why would she do that? Is there any evidence to suggest that that's a thing she wants to do? And even if she did, is there any evidence to suggest that you want the reality of her? Do you know the reality of her? Do you accept the reality of her? The parts that she's showing you, that she's telling you loud and clear? Or are you, like most guys with one-itis, doing this one? La, 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 I can't hear you. I can't see you. No, I'm just going to live in my fantasy. This is the root cause of the one-itis, is that you're refusing to see what's in front of you. So you need to shatter the fantasy by trying to look objectively. Once you decided what it is that you're looking for, I'm looking for this kind of relationship, I'm looking for this type of girl, a girl who has these types of characteristics, who exhibits this behavior, things like that. Your job is not to prove that she does those things, because remember, you can do that. That's your fantasy. Your job is actually to prove the opposite. Your job is to find facts in what she has shown you and what she has told you and what she has said to you that prove she is not that girl. Because once you do that, you'll realize that this list you've created is a fantasy. It's a wish list. It's not realistic. Because even the girl who you've put on this pedestal, who is the perfect version of all these things, even she can't live up to your standards. Oh, why is that? Because she's not real. Because it's a fantasy. Once you've shattered that, next, we're going to keep going. It's not going to be easy. This is the fun part. Next, you're going to make a logical list of red flags that this girl exhibits. This one. Now, this could be the girl who you've broken up with. This could be the girl who dumped you. This could be a girl who you're just in love with on your own, totally separate from any relationship. This could be anybody. But you need to make a list of the red flags that she exhibits. For example, a history of mental illness, a history of abusive ex-boyfriends, a girl who has nothing good to say about any of her exes, somebody who complains about personal situations all the time, somebody who seems to use you as an emotional tampon and then leaves you like that. These are red flags. Write them down. Actually on paper, not in your head, not in your phone, actually on paper, write them down. Because you have a superpower that women do not have. You have the ability to actually crush emotional responses to things with logic in front of your eyes. Yeah, sexist. Okay, sure. True though. True. Because you are still a human, you're still a person, which means you're going to have emotional responses. You're going to feel this relapse towards her, back to saying, oh, but she was so nice today. Oh, but she said this, she did this, or I saw this thing. Pull up your list. You have that list in front of you and you say, oh, right, she's that girl. Yes, she's being nice, but she's also the girl who did this, who showed me this behavior, who said this thing. Then you can temper your emotional responses and you can stop yourself from going back and regressing down the one-itis path. Finally, we have come to the end of your one-itis because now you're going to cut ties completely and fill the hole. First part of this is the most important bit. You need to cut ties with her. Stop talking to her. If it's especially if it's after a breakup, stop talking to her. Unfollow her on social media. Unfriend her on Facebook. Turn off your MySpace page or whatever the hell it is you kids are doing these days. Get off of your Friendsters. Cut ties completely. I realize that in some situations that can be very difficult, if not impossible. Like if you're divorcing and there's kids involved or family, things like that. I understand, but just like we did with the previous part, with writing down the red flags and shattering your fantasy and your illusion, you need to divorce yourself entirely from the I still must see her for this thing and your emotions. You have to cut all emotional ties, all emotional baggage. And yes, as Coot is suggesting, block her. Block her entirely. Block her on your chatting apps. Block her everywhere. The only contact you should possibly have with her is if you absolutely must, like in cases like kids, or you still work together or something. But if it's at all possible, you need to cut ties completely, get away from her as much as possible, and then fill the hole. Because, like I said, the first parts of this were not easy. It's not easy, and you've probably kind of emotionally wounded yourself, but for the better, right? I mean, like you're cutting out a cancer. you're still cutting yourself. You're still going to have a wound that you need to heal. In this case, don't fill it by jumping to another girl and developing one-itis for her. You've already played through this thing before, so whenever you start feeling yourself getting those like fantasy thoughts, understand what it is. Say, oh, okay, yeah, this is my mind playing a trick on me. This is not real. That is not who that person is. If you need to preemptively go through these steps to prevent yourself from getting one-itis, that's fine as well. But you can fill the hole in lots of different ways. If you used to have Thursday night date nights, make Thursday night your boys' night and get together with your friends, or make Thursday night pool night and go out and practice pool, or make Thursday night gym night, or make it racquetball night, or whatever. Fill the empty spaces. Fill the empty spaces in a healthy way. Find something good to do that's going to proactively make you a better person, make you more attractive, more interesting. Just fill your social need. If it's hanging out with the guys and drinking, that's fine too, because that still fills the hole that she's going to leave. And it fills it in a much healthier way than just sitting around and saying, oh, I miss you. Oh, why won't you come back to me? That's not going to work. Simba, 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 calm your tits. Simba, stop. Now, Simba, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Calm down. Okay. Now, let's get back into getting over the breakup. So, where were we? Right. Number 2, break your mental shackles, destroy one-itis. Number 3, you need to find or create, and actually use a safe space. At the risk of sounding woo-woo and you go girl and 21st century nonsense, I don't mean a safe space in that kind of way. I mean a place where you can actually talk through things and get your emotions out on the table. This needs to be trusted friends only. Yes, that is exactly right, Coot. Simba is getting angry at motherfuckers simping for these girls whenever he saw me acting like that. You need to create your own version of a safe space, a place where you can actually talk out what it is you need to talk out, where you can get it out. Because getting over a breakup is, there is not a man, at least not that I've ever met, who honestly can process this kind of stuff and get through their emotions solely on their own. Like, anybody who tells you, like, oh, just be more stoic and stop thinking about emotional things. Okay, you're either not a real person or you're living in a very different kind of fantasy. No, you need to create some kind of place where you can talk through your stuff with trusted friends. Don't dump this on people who are just buddies, right? Like, don't dump this on your bartender. Don't dump this on a drinking buddy. Don't dump this on coworkers. Don't dump this on acquaintances, people who you know, but like you aren't super close with. Only do this with people who you would feel comfortable if they came to you and had the same issues, right? These are people who are your trusted friends, hopefully of years or decades or more. Family, assuming that you're on good terms with them, is also generally a safe place to talk these things out. And it's important to know that while people may offer advice, you don't necessarily have to listen to it as advice. A lot of people will offer to try to help you solve your problem by giving you something to do, when actually you just need to get it out of your system and just vent. And don't get mad at them for that. They just don't know what else to say, right? Because you're dumping a bunch of stuff on them. They feel like they need to fill in the space somehow. So, well, maybe we can try this to, okay, maybe. But that's not the important part. The advice is not the important part here. The important part is that you have a place where you can safely vent out your emotions, where you can get your thoughts out, where you can go wherever you need to with your thought processes and stuff. And they might guide you back to reality, or back to, I don't know that that's a good idea, man. That's fine. You just need a safe place where you can actually talk out this stuff and get it out. You cannot, under any circumstances, under no circumstances whatsoever, can you talk to the girl you've broken up with about this stuff. Under no circumstances. You cannot send her a long ass message saying, "Oh, but you remember the good times when we did this and this, and then I missed you, and oh, I can do better." Don't ever, 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 ever do that. That is, first of all, a guarantee that, well, she's done with you, right? That's the least attractive thing in the entire world. But two, man, she just dumped you. She's already gone through her own shit as well. She doesn't want to deal with your bullshit and your nonsense as well. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's terrible advice for you because it's just driving her further away. But also, just from a human perspective, it's not fair to her either. Even if she is the one who dumped you, she's still having to go through her own bullshit. She's still having to break and rebuild her own reality. Or, more likely, just continue on with whatever fantasy. Women aren't very good at the introspection and rebuilding and actually improving bits. That's okay. That's not what we're here to rail about. I'm here to tell you, do not fucking do that. Do not talk to her about it. Don't talk to her, period. Remember, we cut ties. That was the thing that we did. Don't talk to her about this at all, under any circumstances, no matter what. Even if you do still have to see her for whatever reason, do not talk to her about this. Do not talk to her about a new girl who you started dating. Do not talk to her about the pain of the breakup. Do not talk to her about your boys' nights out. Do not talk to her about any of this, period. Now, let's move on. Step 4, use the opportunity and smash the mirror. This comes back to number 1. You now have a golden opportunity in front of you. You can change everything. You can change who you are. You can change your habits. You can change your hobbies. You can change your work. You can change where you live. You can change everything in your life if you want to. You have an opportunity right now to look in the mirror at who you have been up until this point. And then you can pick and choose which parts you want to keep. Or you can smash the whole mirror and rebuild from scratch. Terrifying as a prospect, I know. But like I said, you already have all of the experiences that you've had in your life up till now. So you know what things have been working for you. And more importantly, if you're being honest with yourself, you know what things have not worked for you. You know what's led you down the path to the point where you are now. You now have the opportunity to change things, and everybody will accept it. Changing yourself without an impetus is possible, but it's much harder because people do not like it when things change. Because if someone is constantly improving themselves and changing things, it makes them or us feel like shit in comparison. So change without an impetus is difficult for people to accept. Or they think, you're just on a kick. You're just going to do this thing for a few weeks. A breakup is one of those perfect opportunities to say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to flip over the board. I'm going to smash the mirror. I'm going to redo everything right now. And everybody says, yeah, okay, that's, you know what? Fair enough. Like, I see where you ended up. So I support that. Absolutely. Change everything you need to change. This is an opportunity to make decisions and make changes in your life, in how you live your life, in what you do, in who you are at a fundamental level. And it's one that is accepted by all of society and all of your friends and family, but also, more importantly, it's accepted by your brain. One of the reasons that change without some sort of impetus, without some rock bottom or some massive shift, is it's difficult. And the reason is because your brain says, right, but like what we were doing before was kind of working fine. And this is a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. I'm not sure that I want to do this. You can push through it. It takes a tremendous amount of willpower and self-discipline to do it. The reality is, for most people, myself included, that's almost impossible to do unless you have a major cataclysmic life event that lets you tell your brain, nope, brain, fuck you. Look where you got me. I'm not doing it anymore. We're changing things starting today. And even your brain's going to throw up its hands and be like, yeah, you know what? Fair enough. Let's do it. Let's change it. This is your opportunity. Don't waste it. Use this as your chance to get better. Use this as your chance to fix the things that led to your breakup in the first place. Use this chance to, even if it was her fault, you still attracted and accepted the wrong girl, didn't you? Use this as an opportunity to figure out what it is that you actually want to do, who it is you actually want to meet, what kind of relationship you're actually looking for going forward. And if you're not sure about that, and if you need some help talking through that or sorting it out or making sense of what's going on in your head, I'll tell you what, go to realjacknorth.com right now. You can sign up for a free call with me. I'll talk through it with you. I'll help you through the issues that you're having with your breakup, and I'll help you create a plan to remake yourself totally free. I want to help you flip the table, smash the mirror, and become a much better version of yourself. And all it's going to cost you is a couple of mouse clicks. If you're not willing to invest a couple of mouse clicks in doing this, you're really not that serious, and you're living in that fantasy land that we talked about before. So, if you're not there yet, that's fine. There's nothing I can do for you now. But when you are there, when you are ready, and when you know it's time to make the change, it's time to be better, it's time to live life on my terms, the way that I want, and actually take control of what's going on instead of being blown around by the winds of fate and the vicissitudes of fortune, go to realjacknorth.com, sign up for a free call right now, talk with me one-on-one, let me help you become the version of yourself that you want to be. Now, with all that said, that was a fun lesson. It was wild. Let's actually bring in our panel and move on to the Q&A part of our stream today. So first of all, we're bringing in Julius, who's coming in from Texas, and the kid coming in from California. How are you boys doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Good. How about you, Julius? You okay? Oh, we caught him AFK.
Oh yeah, sorry, my mic was off. I'm here.
All right, cool. So let's just jump right into it. The kid, what you got for us, buddy?
Yeah. So to start off, I like the lesson, but it felt a little like theoretical, like theory wise. So like, what's some of the actual steps? Maybe not go into details of the breakups or times you had one-itis, but like actual things you both have done when you notice, like, man, you had a really strong connection or a really bad one-itis. You did afterwards to kind of come back from that.
That actually brings back a thing that somebody asked in the Discord, or somebody mentioned in there, saying that after a breakup, the first thing that they do is they just go have a one-night stand with somebody. I mean, the adage is the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else, right? And I actually don't recommend that. Every time that I've done that, it's made things worse. Like, it ends up with me passing the one-itis onto a new girl now, or deepening my one-itis with the girl I've just broken up with, where I'm like, this girl doesn't even measure up, right? She doesn't even know how to suck a dick like a champion. This girl was a Hoover. You know, like, to me, that doesn't work, and it usually just creates more emotional damage than you need.
Okay.
But as to things to actually do, well, my last breakup was particularly messy and painful, and the first thing I did was I created a group chat room for all of my close friends, and I was like, "All right, motherfuckers, I'm calling in any favors that I've ever done for you in the last 10 years, any drinks I've ever bought you, anything, anytime I've ever been there for you. I'm calling in all the favors now. Avengers Assemble. We're going out tonight. Here's the reason why. I'm gonna just spew verbal diarrhea and bullshit everywhere. Your job is to listen and make sure my glass is never empty. I'm getting shit faced tonight, and y'all are my babysitters." And that was exactly what I did, and I just spewed it all out. And they showed up, like, they came. good friends. So I created my safe space like that where I could just, and they all showed up and they, helped me. They're like, oh yeah, yeah, fuck her. Yeah, she's a bitch. Yeah, yeah, oh, here, have another beer. Yeah, shots. Get this motherfucker some tequila or whatever was going on, right? I don't really remember it, but it did, like, that was super helpful to me to just get it all out and go into an ultra emotional state of like, I'm just gonna dump everything. And that worked for me. How about you,
Okay.
Julius?
Yeah, I think kind of running to like a one night stand or another person, that's always I think a bad idea because you're not completely over the other person yet.
Yeah,
And yet you're using someone else to feel better about yourself, and
yeah,
all you do is just end up hurting yourself because all you're doing is just reminding yourself of what you're missing out on, and you
yeah,
compare the other person to who you were with before. So you're hurting, but you're the new person. So it's kind of shitty. I don't think it's particularly healthy either. Um, I think the best way to just kind of get over the other person is to just throw yourself into whatever it is you're doing that's very productive and healthy. So work is great for that. Just throw yourself in your work overtime, work long hours, work, and exercise. For instance, I exercise a shit ton, and that really helped a lot because you just kind of get all the stress out, you get all the good stuff out, and you're doing something really positive and healthy. You're not, meeting bar sluts and all this dumb shit. That just makes things so much worse for you. So, yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I did.
yeah. And not only that, but you're feeding the belief that even if you don't acknowledge it, it's somewhere in your subconscious. You're feeding the belief that your value is directly tied to what a girl thinks of you. And so
Hmm.
if you need to go and hook up with girls to feed your ego, to feel better about yourself, you're still putting your value in someone else's hands
Yep.
and their opinions of you. And that's not a good place to be at all. You
No,
don't
no.
want to do that.
Especially when you're putting in something as fickle as like a one night stand. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, is that really your worth?
Yeah.
Just
Just
this
some bitch
that.
who told you her name was Jessica and you know nothing else about her. Even that could be a lie. And you're
Mhm.
letting her dictate whether or not you love yourself. Really?
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. So yeah, dude, just play some online games, meet your friends,
Yeah.
exercise, throw yourself in your career. You just zone out, but don't drink, don't do drugs, don't do silly one night stands or um, you know, rush into another relationship because that's also another mistake too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to find the things that work for you. It A lot of it comes down to what issues you're having, right? Because if you're just pissed at the situation, like that was my situation in the last breakup, was like, yeah, I felt hurt, I felt betrayed, but I was mostly just fucking pissed. Didn't want her back, wasn't trying to like somehow make it work out or anything like that. I was just pissed off. And so for me, the solution was just rant about it for a few hours and get blind drunk with my friends and let them babysit me and then pop me into a taxi home at the end of the night. Like, all right, vented out the rage and the pain that I was going through. But that's not the healthy way to do it if you're like, oh, I don't love myself. I don't like who I am. I don't like what I'm doing in life. I know, I'll drink to oblivion. Like, oh, that's not going to help this situation at all. Make sure that your prescription matches the problem as well. Like whatever it is you're doing, it needs to match. And if you're throwing yourself into work to fill the time and using that opportunity to improve yourself or to heal, that's one thing. If you're throwing yourself into work or into other things so that you can avoid thinking about it and just let the fantasy play out in your head, that's unhealthy. You need to understand the reasons why. That's one of the reasons that this lesson was so uh, I guess abstract in a lot of ways, because everybody's going to be in a different place, everybody's going to be in a different situation. You've just finished a relationship. I don't know what your relationship was like. I don't know how long it was. I don't know if she cheated on you, or if she just got tired of your bullshit, or if you got tired of her bullshit, or whatever. Like, the situations are all different, but these steps, when applied to your situation appropriately, will help you to get over it and come out the other side a much better and stronger person as a result. Oh,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
what you got next, the kid?
Yeah, so I think kind of going off that point, right? When would you say is like a healthy point to get back into like the dating scene, either casually dating, spinning some plates, or finding that long-term relationship again? Kind of what does that timeline look like?
Uh, about the time you when you go a whole day without thinking about her at all, then you're over it. And I mean, I'm not saying you go forever without thinking about her or about the relationship, but you at least go a whole day, 24 hours without that popping into your head. Because if that's still in your head and you're still thinking, whether you're thinking, oh, I need to get back together with her, or oh, I can't believe that this shit happened, and you're carrying that rage, or you're carrying the disappointment, or whatever your emotional baggage is with it. If you're carrying that and thinking about it every single day, then that means it's also informing your actions, and it's changing your behavior and how you come across to people. And that's not going to be, I mean, first of all, it's not going to be an attractive thing, but also it's showing that you're still under the control of those emotions and of that situation. So I would say, as a general rule of thumb, if you go a whole day without thinking about her or your relationship or your breakup, then you're in a good spot to start pursuing new things. What do you think, Julius?
Um, that's a good question. Um, it's one I haven't really been able to answer for myself,
Yeah.
but I feel like if you can date another person and it doesn't make you feel guilty or bad in some way, then I think you're ready to move on and put yourself out there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because that
That,
was a mistake I was making when I was broken up with my ex.
yeah.
I'm sure you remember that was a pretty nasty one. Um,
The idiot?
yeah,
Yeah.
and so when I was broken up and then I started dating again, I was kind of like weirdly bringing her up with the new girls I was dating, and they didn't like that.
No,
So don't do that.
no, don't do
So
that.
I was clearly not ready, and you know, I felt bad looking back because I was like, oh, I didn't know, you
Yeah.
know, I wasn't ready, so I was just making them mad. So um, I think when you're in a place where you confidently, consciously don't even bring them up, or don't even bring her up, or think about her, or anything, then you should be good to go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I
And
think.
I mean, there's everybody is different on their road to
Yeah.
recovery here.
Hmm.
And it's, I think it's safe to say that after a breakup, men never fully recover. Women take a much harder hit at first. They
Hmm.
get a much harder time emotionally, and with their mental the feelings, right? The feelings. I can't think of the words here. I'm getting dumber every day. God damn
Oh,
it.
hormones.
Hormones, yeah. Anyway, they get hit harder with that stuff than guys do at first, but then they also recover fairly quickly. And actually, most men never like completely recover from a breakup. Like, I still carry trauma from my past relationships and breakups, and
Hmm.
it does still inform certain decisions I make and things that I see, and I'm like, I don't know if I trust this situation because of, right, I've been burned before in these things. So you're never going to truly completely recover. That's not the goal here. The goal is to yeah, like Julia said, not have to be bringing it up, not let it be, like I was saying, not let it be part of your active conversations and the way that you just act generally and that you go through your life. You want to try and get past that stage before you start dating someone else. Otherwise, you're just moving your shit that you're dumping, instead of dumping it on friends or family in your safe space. You're dumping it on some poor random girl who's like, "Wait, I just signed up for some dick, and this is what I'm getting." Jesus, this guy's
Mhm.
nuts.
Yeah, yep, that's true. I do want to say that with my thing, there's no clear timeline.
Yeah.
It varies from person to person.
Yeah, I mean, know thyself, right? You've got to
Mhm.
know where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, even, right? Because
Yeah,
this stuff also affects you physically. It affects your body. It affects your body chemistry, your hormones as well. So know yourself, know what's going on with your situation, and take proactive action to get into a better place, to improve yourself, to use the opportunities that you have to retool things that weren't working or that led you to where you are. But don't dump it on some poor girl.
yeah, yeah.
Is the
Don't
word
do
you're
that.
looking for. Yeah, I know, Coot. Just I felt like there was a better way of describing what I had in my head. I just couldn't quite get there. Apparently, all the alcohol has just turned my brain to Swiss cheese. So, you guys get the benefit of my experience, but you don't get the benefit of my years of education and learning. Learning. The kid, what you got next for us?
Yeah, so I think you kind of touched on one of the bullet points on the whiteboard. So afterwards, when you're saying like, "Hey, this is a good opportunity for you to make a change," right?
Yeah,
Like you can drastically change something about yourself, right?
yeah.
How should a guy go about like maybe analyzing and trying to turn maybe a negative into a positive, right? Like, what are some things guys should maybe look at first of all when they're looking at like what should they change about themselves to maybe like improve themselves for the better?
Uh, do an honest audit with yourself of what got me into this situation, not the most obvious cause, right? So, like, oh, the girl cheated on me, so we broke up. Okay, I understand that, but what led to you being in a long-term relationship with a girl who cheated on you? What led to her cheating, right? Because yeah, it is her fault. I'm not saying it's not, or that it's not her own personality defect here, but also you were you giving her the dick enough, right? Is she satisfied? Is she getting everything she needs there? Are you turning into a simp at home? Are you creating a situation where she doesn't want to be around you anymore, where she doesn't respect you as a man? What have you done that's led to this point? One of the biggest issues that I had to come to terms with after my last relationship was that I I acquiesced many times along the way when I should have said no. When she started leaving things at my place, but we were just Tinder fuck buddies that like it kept going, and then she started leaving things at my place, and then she started spending whole weekends there, and like the snowball built up, and every time I was thinking in my head, you know what, I should really put an end to this, but I don't know. I kind of like the sex on tap, and like that's nice. And I'm she's not that bad, right? And like I was letting things go when I should have been putting my foot down and saying, "Wait, stop. This is not what I want. This like we can keep doing the thing we had before, or we can cut it off here. But I'm not doing that thing." And that was something I had to come to terms with in myself. Of okay, why didn't you say no? Because somewhere in me, I was afraid of losing the girl. So I was scared to say no. Okay, well, now that you've accepted that, you already see the flaw in that belief, right? Of like, but it was just a Tinder fuck, and like you have plenty more of those. So you're actually not that scared of losing this girl because she's very easily replaceable. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so you can talk to yourself and start to rectify your own situations. So, like I said, figure out what has caused you to end up at this point. Not the immediate cause, but the things that led to it, the preceding issues that led you to the now explosion.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's like you don't blame the president now for high inflation when it's like, okay, but also we've been printing trillions of dollars for the last 2 decades straight and just playing funny money with everything, and then we're like, oh, inflation happened, right? Like it's the proximate cause is obvious, but the preceding things are actually what caused this thing, and you can't ignore those. You have to really be part of it. Yes, the toothbrush, and then the shampoo, and they'll leave a this one is one that I've seen a lot. They'll leave hair ties, hair bands on your nightstand. They mark their territory this way. You got to cut that shit off right at the pass. Julius, what do you think? What do you think?
I mean, I think you pretty much summed it up perfectly. I mean, yeah, like I think the mature thing here to do in a relationship that just went south um, is to reflect on it and see what went wrong and try to trace all that back to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to use myself as an example, but I'll use my brother.
Sure.
And one thing that like his ex did, you know, after they were dating for 2 years and she cheated on him, I think, um, you know, he was kind of like, okay, so what did I do wrong? It couldn't have been my job because I had just graduated in the middle of a recession. It's more like, maybe because I played too many video games. And so every time she was over, she would fall asleep on my lap instead of hanging out with me, right? Or instead of taking her out, you know, I'd play video games. Or I would have an attitude. I would get angry very easily. You know, all these things, and he had to work on all of that.
Sure.
You know, and it wasn't just because she cheated on me because of this. It was kind of like, how about I do these things, I change all of these things so that the result of what happened last time doesn't repeat itself.
Exactly.
So, and he did that, and now he's married.
There you go. And that's what you have to do is like, even if it's not your fault that the relationship has ended, you need to take extreme responsibility for all the things that led to the end result, right? And
Yeah.
like, you can't change what someone else does, thinks, feels, believes, but you can take control of yourself and pay attention to like, okay, so I've just been letting myself do whatever the fuck I wanted. Which parts of that were good? Which parts do I want to keep? And which parts do I want to get rid of and change? And that's the idea of smashing the mirror, of rebuilding things, of remaking yourself, because you do have an opportunity here. You've got the impetus of, right, time for self-reflection, time to look inside of what has happened here. What have I done right? What have I done wrong? What do I need to change moving forward? And
Yeah.
not change for her, change for you, so that you don't have this thing happen again.
Yeah. I knew a guy who changed for her and not
Yeah.
for himself.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you still won't get the girl you're trying to get.
No, definitely
Because
not.
she's put you in this inescapable zone.
Yeah.
So this friend of mine, he lost a bunch of weight, he changed his hairstyle, and he changed his fashion sense, right? And he started exercising more. But the girl still didn't want him, and she was fucking everyone but him. So it wasn't about the way he looked as he thought. It was more about the way who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to work on that,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Yeah,
Who
I
you
mean,
are.
like I've known dudes who are just, they're stacked, just looking great. Oh, I got all the muscles, looking good, but then they still act like beta bitch simps, and it's like, oh, okay, she's still gonna choose me every time, even though I don't have any of that stuff. But What's the difference here? What's the X factor? It's not the muscles or the money or the status or the fame or any of that stuff. Honestly, it's a lot of the underlying beliefs and the core concepts in your head, and understanding relationships, understanding dynamics of social situations, of what women actually want, how they actually behave, knowing how to properly interpret what they're saying, because the words aren't what they're actually trying to communicate to you. Those are the things that are going to win every time over anything else. And yeah, Coot, I feel for you, man. You found one of her old hair ties. And it's been months. It's been months for you. And she still has her territory marked, right? Like that shit it seeps in deep.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Cool, cool. So then, one next question I would have is, I'm kind of curious on both you guys' opinions on this. What's kind of the difference you guys have noticed when it comes to handling breakups in like when you've been dating in Korea versus out in the West? Like, how do the girls react? How does that process usually go, or is there any difference at all?
How the
I
girls handle it?
How the process just goes
I f-
typically?
I
Like, is there a difference, or is it just normal?
I feel that with Western girls, when you break up with one or whatever happens, there's always like a back and forth. There's like a hope. There's possibility that you guys might get back together. Things more amicable. You could probably end up as friends. Probably not, but there's more communication, and this process of breaking up and like maybe making things final and over
Yeah.
could take days, could take a year, like it did for me.
Yeah.
It takes a while, but with a Korean girl, I'm guessing because Korean culture is just so fast, it's quick, it's immediate,
And
and
not only that, but they just straight up like they do all the things that I just told you to do. The second you break up, they block you and they're done.
yeah,
Right?
they block you and you're done, and that's it, and
Yeah.
that's it, that's it, and this is like a Korean thing. Like that's all they do. They delete everything, they erase you, your history. You're not even a footnote. You're just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference I've noticed. Huge difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's a big
Honestly,
difference.
I think that that's probably the healthier of the two ways to do it. It still
Yeah,
has its own
it hurts.
problems, which is like they don't tend to reflect on like, oh, what went wrong, what can we change, what can we do better, like none of that stuff. Instead, they just scorched earth. It's all gone. Oh, you have pictures? Okay, cool. We're just throwing them all in the trash. They divorce themselves emotionally like in an instant,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're done.
hmm It happened to me once when I came back to Korea a few years ago, and I was going to see my girlfriend. Then she breaks up with me, and she throws all my stuff out,
Yeah,
and I never saw the stuff out ever again. I never talked to her ever again. It was fucking crazy, like
yeah,
instant. It was insane.
yep.
Uh, it's part of my angry phase. I'm sure Jack remembers.
When they're done, they're done.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference. Like you guys won't stay friends or anything. Like that's
Yeah.
it. Final Fantasy. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, and as a result of that, like there is a pretty big cultural difference there. Like nobody stays friends with their ex; they don't stay in communication in any way. And so, for like in at least in American culture, we tend to like stay in some kind of communication, even if like, well, we're not really talking, but we're still connected on Facebook, or maybe shoot a happy birthday email or something, right? But like in Korea, it's done,
Oh yeah.
completely gone.
hmm Yeah, there's just nothing. There's nothing. They will hell block you and they will
They
get rid of
block everything, but still mention her exes as a shit test to the next guy. Yeah, depending on the situation and the relationship, a lot
you.
of
Yeah.
girls will never admit that they've dated a foreigner. because Korean guys get real fucking weird about that. They do, man. You remember my old coworker who I brought out to RGB a few times,
Mhm.
and she told me, she was like, yeah, every time that I tell Korean guys that, like, you know, because they asked me, like, yo, you work at an English school, like, have you ever dated any of the foreigners? And she's like, well, you know, like, yeah, my ex was from England. And then they all just like shut down immediately, and they're like, oh, I'm done, I'm out. Like,
Holy
okay,
shit.
yeah, they have some confidence issues.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty nutty. Uh, yeah, that's probably the biggest difference, is the difference in the process, where in Korea it's very much just like you're done, you immediately separate, and in Western culture there's like a back and forth. Maybe we're going through the breakup process together,
Hmm.
but I really don't think that that's necessary or healthy. I don't
Yeah,
think that it does you any favors.
it's a slow emotional burn.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
painful.
so I think it's best to just kind of get it over with as quick as possible. And I
Yeah,
do agree with Jack. Like the Korean way sucks, but it's a version that sucks least.
out of
You know,
those two,
yeah. The
yes.
other one, you just keep talking, you remain hopeful, and you think there's a chance, and
Mm.
there isn't. There
No,
isn't.
no, there
And
is.
it will take months to a year for you to figure that out. It sucks. So just let it go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. Did I
Anything
answer
else?
your question?
Yeah, that answers the question. And no, I think that's it. I think we covered the topic overall pretty well today.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, then, we now know how to get over a breakup. We now know how to destroy one-itis. And we now know how to rebuild ourselves into better, more capable men. And if you don't know, or you need help with any of those things, head over to realjacknorth.com, sign up for a free call with me, talk with me. I'll talk through it with you. I'll help you out, and we will formulate a plan for exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to smash that mirror, destroy your fantasy, and turn it into something positive so that you can grow, improve, and be a better person moving forward. With all that said, I'll see you guys next week. Papa Jack out.